Zonal devices are a really big part of Tears of the Kingdom, but they can be confusing for newer players. So today I'm going to go over all the zonal devices and what they do. Starting with the fan. Now the fan is pretty basic. It blows wind and propels anything forward in whatever direction that it's facing. Now the fan lasts for about 30 minutes and I do not recommend fusing it to anything because fans are way too valuable for that. Next up we have the wing. Now the wing can be used for gliding and you can step on what side of the wing you want to turn it in. Also, you can put fans on it to go faster and you can put a steering stick to move it in the direction instead of having to walk everywhere. Now, the fan runs out relatively quickly. I don't know exactly how long it is. I would guess around 2 minutes, but you can fuse it to your shield to gain bullet time. Next up, we have the cart. Now, the cart can roll down hills, and if you fuse it to your shield, you get a skateboard, which is pretty cool. And you can also use a cart as a base for some of your cars. A balloon is an item that you're going to want to attach to a platform, and when heat goes inside of the balloon, it rises up. It's pretty much just a hot air balloon. Now, don't fuse it to any of your weapons or items, but it does run out after about 5 minutes. Now, there are a lot of different heat sources that you can use for a balloon, like a campfire or something, but I recommend using a flame emitter because that just works the fastest. Now we have a rocket. This is one of my favorites. Now, basically what the rocket does when fused to your shield, it makes it so that you can fly really high in the air, but it runs out really fast. Also, when you attach it to an object, it propels that object upwards or forwards or any direction that you attach it to, like this. Now we have the time bomb. Basically, the time bomb is pretty much what you would expect. It's a bomb that when you hit it, has a short countdown before it explodes, kind of like the bomb room from Breath of the Wild. And when you fuse it to your shield and shield jump, you can gain some pretty neat height. Also, don't fuse it to your weapon. The portable pot is pretty much just a cooking pot that you can carry around. And it has some other uses, but I'm not entirely sure what it is, so I'm not going to explain it here. Now, the flame emitter is a device that can shoot out fire. Now, you can attach it to your sword, but I recommend only attaching it to your shields or boomerangs. Because if you attach it to your shield, then it can shoot out flames. And you can also attach it to some of your other contraptions to shoot out fire from your vehicles. The frost emitter is kind of like the flame emitter, except that it shoots ice instead of fire, which I think is a little bit more useful because it can freeze enemies and then you can hit them so it will do double the damage. And this time I don't recommend fusing it to your boomerang because if you throw it, it could accidentally freeze you. I only recommend fusing this one to your shield so that you can block while using the ice. And it also has another use. You see, if you aim it at water, it creates a makeshift cryonis that makes up for not having it in this game. The shock emitter is kind of like the other two emitters, but instead of shooting it, there's a little spike that comes out that turns on electric. So it's more of a close range emitter, and you can fuse it on your shield for close range electricity. The beam emitter is like some of the other emitters, except it shoots laser beams. Now, this is my personal favorite emitter, aside from the ice emitter, because it does the most damage. You can fuse it to your tanks to get some pretty good damage, and to your shield to have a laser shield. The hydrant is kind of like the other emitters, except it shoots water. And again, you can fuse it to your shield to have a water shield. This is most useful for clearing through the lava in Death Mountain. Now, the steering stick is probably one of the most useful Zonal devices yet. The steering stick can control where a Zonal device moves. Just by placing it on the Zonal device, the steering stick acts as a steering wheel for steering around Zonal contraption. Big wheel can be used as monster truck wheels. By attaching it to some platform with a steering stick, you get yourself a little truck. Now, the big wheel can also be used for some other stuff, like making a rotating table, or attaching some beam emitters to it will create a rotating circle of lasers. The small wheel is a lot like the big wheel, but in my opinion, it is better. The small wheel can be attached to platforms or just a steering stick to make a car or a motorcycle, and it is so much faster and it's way better. Now, don't fuse it to your sword because that won't really do anything much, but if you fuse it to your shield, it will slowly do a lot of damage, but it takes up a lot of durability, so I don't really think it's worth it. The sled can be used to slide around on the desert surface. It goes really fast and it's kind of like the cart just without wheels. Now the battery, when attached to a Zonal device, when that Zonal device gets used, it will not take battery power from your own battery supply, but will instead drain it from that battery cartridge. Now the big battery is like a battery, but lasts as long as 10 batteries. Now, I'm not gonna show the use of a big battery on this video because they are extremely expensive. Now with the spring, if you fuse a spring to your shield, then you'll get super high in the air. And if you just activate a spring, then you'll be sent flying. You can also stack springs to go even farther up in the air. Now the cannon is like one of the emitters, but it shoots explosive fireballs. And like the other emitters, you can fuse a cannon to your shield to have an explosive shield. When you activate the stabilizer, it will, whatever it attaches to, it'll make it stand upright. When you activate the hover stone and move the thing upwards, it will stay to where you move it. The light, you can use it as sort of a makeshift torch. Now, basically what the light does is it shines a light to light up dark areas. Now the stake, you can put it in the ground and it'll stay upright. You can also use this to attach stuff to the stake and it will stay like there. This can be useful for putting wheels on a car. Now the mirror is kind of interesting. When light shines on it, then the mirror will shoot light out of it and you can blind enemies with it. However, it doesn't take light from the light device. Huge missed opportunity, I know. And you can fuse it to your shield to have the mirror shield from Ocarina of Time. Now, the next two Zonal devices that I'm about to show you work best when they're paired together. So, the homing cart works best when it's paired with the construct head, because the homing cart will home in, moving towards the nearest enemy, and the construct head will aim towards the nearest enemy. And if you fuse an emitter to the construct head, it won't fire the emitter until it sees an enemy. So you pretty much just have an automatic turret.